Oh yeah, and that's one of the things like that I've always like prayed for. Like I've always kind of looked at, there's the biggest thing for us is to be like, vessels for God to use, and that's always
Mhm.
kind of been like my mindset. So it's like regardless of how I'm living or if I'm not doing certain things, like what people might see in the right way, as long as God is able to use me or whatnot, like and I'm able to be of service to people, then that I really couldn't ask for more than that. So that's kind of been my mindset.
I can see that. Oh no!
Yeah.
They don't get it. It's okay. We get
And I was like, yes, Lord, come on with the cancellations.
Whew, we going in it. Now just kidding.
it.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm black. Am I good?
He's with the best of them, and he's one
Oh
of my
God.
favorite men to ever emphasize.
That entrance sounds like much more than who I actually am.
All right, so my guest of honor is a creative, artistic spirit that walks to the beat of his own drum. He's currently working as a senior technical recruiter and diversity program manager. He has experience at all of your favorite companies such as Facebook, Google, Amazon, Visa, and Cruise. He's a co-founder and board member of Austin Urban Technology Movement. He's one of my favorite men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. My guest of honor today is Darion Whitten. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing good, Sans. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm trying to stay COVID free just like you.
Yeah.
Trying to stay COVID
um,
free. How has
yeah.
quarantining been for you?
It's been interesting. I would say it's kind of been a lot of like self discovery.
Hmm.
And honestly, I would say just kind of recalibrating. Like I really been using this time to just like self reflect on like what I want to do, where I want to go, and honestly been praying a lot more. Like
Yeah.
at the beginning of this, just setting aside like 20 minutes a day, like just to pray. Like nothing else. Just like come upstairs to my studio, shut the door, no distractions, and just really focus on that. Yeah, it's been a crazy summer.
Yeah. It's been a
Yeah,
crazy year.
yeah, that that part.
Crazy year. I will say seeking God and seeking his face is always going to give you direction. So you're doing the right
Oh,
thing.
always. Thank you, thank you.
Doing the right thing. Tell me a little bit about your story and how we get to see this Darian that sits before us today.
So my story is pretty complicated. My parents, they had me pretty young. Like I was born in Dallas, Texas, Oak Cliff specifically. But they had me young, so I ended up with my great great aunt that I called my grandmother. She actually just passed a couple of weeks ago, so shout out, heart, rest in peace to her.
Sorry to hear that.
But raised by, yeah, it's all good. She's in a better place. That's kind of how I looked at it. But she raised me alongside her husband, my uncle, I called him Papa. Um, so basically, like it's two parent household. Very like kind of lower middle class. I would say like we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor. Like
Hmm.
I didn't really know I was poor until I went to one of my good friends, Chet French house, like second grade, and he had like a swimming pool and a monkey. And I was like,
Yeah,
why do
a
we have a monkey?
monkey.
Yeah,
Are you Michael
exactly,
Jackson?
exactly. But yeah, they were really big in the church. They really like made sure that we were there every Sunday. As I got older, I definitely kind of detoured a little bit and started doing neighborhood stuff, stupid stuff. Being in the streets basically,
Hmm.
and then just kind of really took a step back and realized, like, hey, I'm missing out on a lot of potential, for myself because, the good thing is like a lot of people in the streets around me, like they were older and they're like, hey, like you're really smart and you're too smart for this. Like you don't need to be in the streets. You need to be like going to school,
Hmm.
running a business, something of that nature. And I feel like that's what a lot of OGs don't do like today is really like get kids on the right place. Like they try to
Yeah.
like keep you doing negative things, but luckily for me, they pushed me on the positive route. So I moved. I was like 13 at the time. Moved back to Dallas, and I was always back and forth between Dallas and Athens. But moved back to Dallas with my mom. Basically, helped raise my brothers. Finished high school at Duncanville. Ended up at UT Arlington. That's where we picked up.
Hmm.
Uh, school was a bit of a struggle for me. Like I had like one summer where I was pretty much like living out of my car. Most semesters I didn't really have books because it was like pretty much all on me. Supporting myself like 100%. And that's where like alpha played like an important role for me because it's like I had network around me, and I was basically just taking the classes that they took, and I was just like borrow their books and just kind of learn from them. And it really
Mhm.
gave me like a lot of guidance. But that's why I also started like walking into more of like a leadership type role, like not just on campus, but in my community as well. And that really stuck with me. So all through undergrad, like I really focused on like preparing for law school. Like I took the LSAT, like I barely studied for it, but I passed it anyway.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I thought that's what I wanted to do, but after getting like my letters of recommendation and like getting to shadow like a lot of attorneys and things like that, I realized it wasn't necessarily for me. But luckily, like two of my frat brothers, they got me into recruiting. So with recruiting, I never really knew what that was. I was like, I thought they were talking like military or something like that. I was like,
I'm not
I'm okay.
going.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I got asthma. But no, they got me into it. So I was doing like agency recruiting for about 2.5 years or so, and I really noticed that I just really have a knack for helping people, and I really enjoy helping people. Yeah. So yeah, a couple of my frat brothers got me into it. So they got me into like the agency side of recruiting. So like basically we would partner with like different clients and companies around like the Dallas Metroplex and like give people like contract to hire type positions or whatever. And that's honestly like that's where like my diversity focus really started. Because I was able to hire like a lot of people from like the black community and the brown community and like give them opportunities. And that carried over to the last role that I had in Dallas, which was kind of like a call center type environment.
Mhm.
Excuse me, call center type environment, and we were supposed to hire like 2,000 people like in like 6 months or something like that.
Wow.
But most of like the strategy and everything that I created like really focused on like the black and brown community. So it's just like the Everest colleges or like those medical billing and coding schools or whatever. Like those are more like second chance opportunities for people. So hired like half of Oak Cliff and Pleasant Grove, just giving everybody a chance. Same thing with my family, like hired a lot of family members. Cause like that's always been important to me, like being able to, create opportunities for us. And that's why I really stayed in recruiting.
Mhm.
Like one of my mentors, she kind of broke it down, like, with recruiting, like we're pretty much doing God's work because like we're helping other people and we're giving them an opportunity to, better themselves, provide for their families. And it's like when people are able to do those things, like they're not worried about the other stuff that can be a distraction, like the negativity
Yeah.
and everything like that. So that piece, really stood out to me. From there, ended up I moved to Austin after I got a call from Google about working for them. Did like a 1 year contract and did really well. Did have an opportunity to keep going with them, but I had like a better opportunity with Visa, which gave me like the chance to be a lead. So
Mhm.
I was a leader for a corporate IT team for a while. Really drove like a lot of diversity change initiatives there, like recreated the process, like the interviewing process to better help people, um, things of that nature. Unfortunately, like that was like my first time ever getting laid off. I was there, so that was a bit of a struggle, but luckily, you never really know who's watching. So one of the guys that was like my mentee, he gave me a call. Like he had just left Visa and went over to Amazon. So he's
Mhm.
like, hey, and it's funny how it worked because like soon as I walked out of the HR meeting, like getting laid off, it's like I had a feeling it was gonna happen to me because I was like, I asked my manager straight up. I was like, hey, I know there's a lot of black people getting laid off. I don't know if you know this, but I'm black. Am I? And we joke, we laugh. He's like, no, you good. And then the next day, like a random like meeting popped up on my calendar, and I was like, hey, is this different from our one-on-one? And he was kind of like weird about it, but I wasn't tripping because it wasn't his call. He found out
Mhm.
just when I found out. So I never held that against him. So we were always cool. But anyway, walked out of that meeting. My boy called me over at Amazon, like, "Hey, I got you an interview." Um, Went through the interview process, and within that 2 weeks of being told that I was laid off, I already had a job at Amazon. Uh,
That's crazy.
yeah, super crazy. So go to Amazon. Amazon is really cool. I focus on like a lot of the more senior level positions, and it really gave me like an opportunity to really dive deeper into like the business side of things. Because like Amazon, like that's in my opinion, doesn't get bigger than Amazon. That's just me.
Yeah.
But just really learning like how they did things really opened my eyes and kind of gave me like some new perspective on things. So that was really cool. Also around that time, that's when I started. I co-founded Autumn, Austin Urban Technology Movement, with a couple of other recruiters and just friends in the community. Basically, Autumn just kind of focused on driving diversity initiatives for companies and then also connecting the community to these companies. So basically, we would bring people from our communities to like a Google, a Facebook, an Amazon, a Visa, who else is out here? basically everybody. With
Everybody.
each, yeah, pretty much. But with each one, we have like different things that we can focus on, like really talk about, personal development, career development. Um, what does it mean to bring your authentic self to work and things like that, and then also bring the recruiters of those companies there to hire those people, so we were able to
Wow.
get people like hired on. But going back to Amazon, my time there was cut pretty short just because like I came during like a weird transition, and I was like the only remote person on my team, and they didn't really want like remote people. And then like there was just a lot of shifting going on, so I was like, you know what, I'd rather play it safe. So I ended up at Facebook. Facebook was really cool. That's where I really dove into like, and honestly, I feel like I learned the most from Facebook,
Mhm.
just because it's something that has like an immediate impact on like our day to day lives. Like you think about how much Facebook, Instagram, social media in general
Yeah.
has impacted our livelihoods, and to play a major part in that really, said a lot. But aside from like just my day to day recruiting role, like I really dove deeper into like diversity program management. So just driving diversity initiatives, revamping interview processes for just to give us a chance, because like a lot of times when you have like those more senior level positions, you don't really see too many people that look like us, but
True.
you want to make sure that they at least have us in mind, so like creating questions around diversity for those more senior level people, so that way we're making sure that we're hiring people that won't be roadblockers down the road. But also just driving like the numbers in general for diversity, for the team that I supported, like we like bumped it up like 20 something percent. So that was like pretty awesome.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so good time there. Right around that time, I like bought a house, and this is where like life gets really interesting. So like bought my house, it was brand new. I didn't have it built, but it was like a new build. So move in first year, great. Second year rolls around, and they basically like jack up my mortgage for my tax rate, so I'm having to pay like an extra $2,000 a month.
Ooh. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was telling my cousin about it. He was like, "Man, I don't even know what I would have done."
Lord,
But
2000. Ah.
yeah, whole 2000 of them things. But with me and my girl, we cried, we prayed about it, and luckily, my one of my best friends, I'm actually the godfather to his kid. He was a cruise, reached out to me like, hey, I can bring you on over here. It's a quick interview process, and I left Facebook on good terms, and everything worked out. Unfortunately, like my role was actually impacted by COVID back in May,
Mhm.
so I just been doing like a lot of consulting work since then, just kind of keep staying busy, staying active, really kind of diving into like more of my entrepreneurial side of things, and still interviewing like crazy. Like I probably have an offer next week, so I'm in good shape.
It's crazy. when
Yeah, a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, but that makes for a good story. If you don't have a plot twist, it's just like
Yeah,
not worth telling the story. You know what I'm
at
saying?
all,
That's
at all.
amazing. And that I promise, someone hearing that, just knowing that you went through all those loops, they're gonna know that that's normal. That is
Yeah,
normal, y'all.
yeah, it really is. Like nothing is perfect.
That nothing. So, do you feel like recruiting is a part of your passion now? It's ingrained in you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Because I never really turn it off.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like even if I'm just having like a conversation or whatever, because I feel like every conversation is a business meeting in disguise.
Mhm.
So just really kind of picking people's brains a little bit, understanding like what's important to them, and you never know, like it could circle back. Like I had a conversation with one guy, then a year later, I'm able to like hire him. Like, hey, this position open. I thought about you. Would you be interested? And just kind of go from there. And then again, like I said, just being able to help the community. Like even if I can't hire people on the technical side, like I
Mhm.
still know how to coach people for whatever role it is that they're interviewing for, and help them like big themselves up, and also
Mhm.
help out with like their resumes and things.
One thing that was consistent in your story is your network. It
Yes.
seems like you presented yourself in such a way that people remembered you, like you were memorable, and they understood that you would do a great job at everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, like, what are your five non-negotiables when it comes to friendships and relationships? Because obviously, you have a good network.
um, I would have to say trust.
Mhm.
Um, it's we always joke about it. We kind of act like we're like a little mafia, like amongst like my core friends or whatever. It's just like our conversations stay between us, and it's really been working. Like we have like a lot of tough conversations,
Mhm.
a lot of heart to hearts because it's almost like therapy for one another. And I
Yeah.
think in order to dive that deep emotionally, it takes a level of trust and confidentiality amongst each other. Positivity, that's a big one for me. You really don't want to be around like negative people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because negativity, that's contagious. It's like a disease that spreads quick, and you gotta really like kind of distance yourself. You got to social distance. It's like COVID-19. You don't want nobody breathing
6
down your neck
feet.
with negativity. Yeah, so lights on down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I've always, regardless of the situations, like even coming up in the hood, you're surrounded by negativity. I still found like the positives and
Mm-hmm.
things, and found the positives in people, and just kind of took those things and just kind of ingrained them into my character. Um, I would have to say, outside of positivity, consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand, like we're not always gonna be able to talk, things like that. But we do have to have like some level of consistency and normalcy, and like just coming through on your word. Like if you say you're gonna do something, do something. That piece is really important in terms of just like building trust as well. I feel like you can't have one without the other. Uh, Honesty, that's a big one. uh, always being honest with each other, and being honest, with ourselves, because like that's gonna allow you to have honest conversations. Like if I'm messing up, let me know, and then that will lead to my fifth one, accountability. Like being able to hold each other accountable. Like you just can't run unchecked. Like you got to have that person or those people around you.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, like you're a terrible dad. Like you might want to you might want to
Tighten
show up.
up.
Yeah, I know. Boy, hey man, like you can't be coming to work drunk, like and I've had those conversations with people, like, you gotta, get that together, man. Like go home, sleep it off. Luckily I, catch people at the door or whatever before they even get in the building. So it's just things like that. But when there's people that you care about, you want to make sure that you do those things. And that makes for long lasting relationships and networks that go past just the professional world, but like it started getting like super personal. But like those people that have helped me along in my career, like if I got married tomorrow, they're in my party.
Absolutely. Well, I'm like you, I'm from the hood too. And
Yeah,
I feel like, people that come from the hood sometimes feel like they have to hide who they are when they come to like
yeah.
corporate America or come to even college, like trying to figure out how you work that out in college. What would you say is the best way for people to present themselves, or what should they do to present themselves in the best light?
I would say, again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about being your authentic self. That piece is really important, and I think that starts from the beginning. Like whenever
Mhm.
they first meet you, like first impressions are everything.
Mhm.
I've never personally been like a fan of like code switching and things of that
Right.
nature. So like, how I communicate. I will be honest. I'll say like I code switch a little bit when I get like home because I can 100% relax. But
Yeah.
I'm still like that level. It's still not like I'm just out there like wilding nothing like language wise. But just kind of making sure that I'm staying true. But being able to bring your authentic self, that piece is really important. Making sure that you're in a place that accepts that, and you really have to be able to read the room. Like I feel like if I can't bring me into the office, then I probably don't need to. That's probably not the company for me.
Yeah.
Because eventually it's going to start wearing you down, and you're going to start feeling it. And you're going to start bringing that home with you, and it's really really weird. But yeah, I would just say kind of play it by ear, really just kind of peep things out, and as always, like as you're being authentic to yourself, like make sure you're still delivering results. Because like one thing that I can say, as long as you're winning, like nobody really cares too much about like the other stuff as long as
True.
you're doing what you're supposed to do. So like winning negates everything.
Absolutely. Could you give the people a definition of corporate America? Because some people that may not be language that they understand. So,
My definition of corporate America, I would have to say, it's really hard. It's almost kind of like a matrix type situation, in my
it's
opinion.
true.
It's like it's a lot of things that are like thinly veiled. Um, it's just really really weird. It's almost kind of like working underneath like a wet blanket in some cases, but just kind of knowing how to stay strong and like push through.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would say corporate America is just different. It's not what we think it is, like in terms of like TV and everything like that. Because like
Hmm.
TV makes it seem like it's just super fun, super easy going, but there
Yeah,
are a lot of challenges, and you really think that they really have things together, but it's really not as together as you think. It's
it's not.
I would say corporate America is like organized chaos, with a little hint of systemic issues, and you really have to like crack those things down and figure it out. And it's almost like some cases, it's going to be high school, and I feel like it changes throughout different industries as well. Corporate America, I would say like the definition is going to change from industry to industry, but at least the corporate America that I've seen, it's almost to me it's been more like high school and college.
That makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes perfect
very
sense.
cliquish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
cliquish.
cliquish. That is perfect.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
very cliquish. Well, I appreciate the work that you're doing. You're in your network, like helping people get in those doors and also teaching them the tips and tools to maintain in those
yeah.
roles. So, I want to ask you, like, how would somebody present themselves in an interview, or how should they interview? What are some tips that you would give them for that?
Come in prepared. Bring the best version of yourself. Make sure that you're warm, make sure that you're inviting. And I think a lot of people, when you think that, you think, be the hi, how's it going? I'm Darion. Like, you don't have to do all that. It ain't gotta be all that. And people can kind of read through that.
True.
So I would say just, be warm, be yourself, be prepared. Practice makes perfect. I never go to an interview like without some type of like prep for myself.
Hmm.
One thing that I've really been using like just throughout my career that's been like super successful is like the STAR method of interviewing. So like basically with my examples, is STAR is an acronym, is situation, task, action, result. Basically what you want to do is just give specifics around the situations, talk about the tasks that were involved, like what was so difficult about those tasks, like were there time constraints, limited resources that had never been done before, like what's going on, like was it like a different difficult like client situation or like roadblocks, who's all involved. Then you want to talk about the actions that you personally took and what you based those actions on. Like was it based on data? Was it based on like previous experience? Did you see something that other people didn't see? What was your thought process? And then you want to talk about the result of those actions. So like the bigger the impact, the better the example.
Hmm.
One of the things too that really helps out, like if you pull up like Amazon's 14 leadership principles, and just kind of make star method question or star method responses to all of those leadership principles, like it's going to give you like a better chance to really like perform and live. But you just really want to make sure that you're mindful of body language, because like a lot of interviewers pick up on a lot of different things. Like I've had people where it's like crushed it on the responses and everything, but like the whole time, the person like this, or they were kind of, and a lot of those things are gonna be like cultural differences. So I'll coach the interviewers and also like coach the candidates on that.
Hmm.
But yeah, coming in, being prepared, knowing what's on your resume, and being able to defend it. Because like a
Please.
lot of times people get the line on the resume, it's like, oh yeah, I did this, that's cap. Well, they can pick up on that, because like they'll start like diving deep into it. So it's like, okay, tell me a little bit more, and then they know more than what you think they know, and now you're kind of like struggling, and that's pretty much like you tank the interview because now they don't trust you because
Yeah.
they want to be able to trust you, and that's an important piece.
Yeah.
That's my biggest.
That resume, look, the resume is supposed to present you in a good light, but you got to be able
Yeah,
to defend that thing like a dissertation. You
man.
got to.
Exactly.
That's so funny because yeah, most people do. They fluff that up.
Exactly. Yeah, and I also go in there like with notes too. And I take notes too.
Is it good to
So
ask
my
them questions?
yeah, always. So like I always come in there. I have questions on my own, but I'm an active listener. So it's like they're talking or whatever. If something stands out, like I'll write like a quick note to come back to that and ask that question like towards the end. And basically like that's what I call like your neo moment. Like
Hmm.
where you're kind of like in a matrix and you're like creating things and stuff like that, or Fortnite, I guess, for the kids these days.
Yeah,
Matrix.
Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite. You're building your walls up and everything like that. But basically, like you have your question and you ask them, and then they kind of start like telling you a little bit about it, and then you can answer. You're basically creating your own question. So it's like, so hey, what's your guys' diversity approach and strategy? Like, what are some issues that you're having? And then they'll start telling me, oh, okay, it's funny. Like I actually did that in my last job. So I'm basically setting myself up. I'm giving myself a self alley possible.
Yeah.
So those really like stand out a lot. Like, oh my god, like you tell me more. It's like, all right, cool. Since you asked,
Since you
but just
asked.
yeah, just planting the seed, and that's really like a big thing in corporate America. Like A lot of times you really have to understand like your ideas. It's really about how you present them, but a lot of times, like if you can plant the seed and kind of make people think they came to that conclusion on their own, like that really helps out a lot. But still, make sure that you get your credit because that's
Yeah.
something that I feel like black people and honestly, I would say black women more specifically, like y'all don't get enough credit, for a lot of the things that y'all do in corporate America. Like, my girl, she went through that several times in her career where it's like you're stealing her ideas and just taking it and run with it. People getting promotions and she's getting skipped over. But
Mm.
everything worked out.
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot with like a lot of my black female friends.
Yeah. We have to speak up more too as well. Working with the student athletes, like I have to plant the seed a lot.
Yeah.
So it's like you like, I'm planting the seed, I'm gonna let you come to this conclusion on your own, but you already know.
Yeah,
um,
that's real.
when it comes to learning how to work with that demographic, like they do take a lot of insight from us because they look like me. So
Yeah.
I always try to make a way for them to feel comfortable, but always like I challenge them to the T because you're gonna be somebody's father, somebody's
Hmm.
yeah, I need you to be
Yeah,
great. So
that's real.
you have to speak up. Women, you have to speak up.
Have to.
Yeah.
I like
So so
that.
it's good to have a career, but it's also good to chase after your passions. So what are
Yep.
some other passions that you have?
Music for sure. So I've always like dabbled in music. So it was like I was writing songs and stuff like that since I was like 10. And then like what was at middle school, like I was part of like a rap group.
Mhm.
High school, like freshman year of high school, like I did my first performance and everything. Like for it wasn't at my high school, but it was my old what would have been my high school. I had I stayed in East Texas. But
Mhm.
we did like what was it, prom or homecoming or something like that. But we did like a showcase there, so that was really cool. And then it just kind of kept growing. So like I took a break from music. Uh, Actually, let me tell you. I'll tell you a real quick story. So I really got like into music production probably like my freshman year in high school, and it all started because of Soldier Boy. Kid you not. So back in the
Hey.
day, it used to be this thing called SoundClick, and Soldier Boy, like he hadn't blown up or anything like that yet. Like he had like I got me some J's, stupid songs like that. And I mean not say stupid, but just kid songs.
Mhm.
So I was like, I hit him up and I asked him straight up, like, hey, I like what you're doing. What tools are you using? How are you making your own beats and everything like that? So he told me, like, at that time it was called Fruity Loops, now it's called FL Studio. And then he was like, download these packs and download these kits or whatever, and it'll kind of give you like a more modern sound. And like, I tried my hand at production, but I just wasn't there because like I really didn't understand music. Like I made like the Debo beat or whatever, and it was trash. I made it on accident, but anyway, fast forward, like I dabble with music a little bit more here and there. But like once I moved from Dallas to Austin, around that time, like that's when I really started like kind of exploring it a little bit more. So one of my neos, he's a music producer. He's actually out in LA. He's worked for like Atlantic. I think he's at Warner Music Group now, something like that. But he really like showed me the ropes in terms of like music production. So I just really started like investing and getting better. And then it was like I was just having a hard time like finding artists to rap over my beats. So I was just kind of like, well, you know what? I rap. I can rap. So it's
Yeah.
like I just started doing it myself. So I put out like my first project a few years ago. I've been kind of a little gun shy, but not really. I'm just really a perfectionist. So right now I'm sitting on like 2 albums.
Mhm.
I actually have a song coming out. I'm not sure when this video go out, but July 24th I have a song out called No Sports. So I feel good about that. But
Good.
really just diving into like the audio engineering aspect of things now because I feel like I'm a good producer. I'm a good songwriter, but I want to be a better audio engineer. And
Okay.
right now, I'm just like coaching like a lot of like younger people, like 20, 21-year-old kids from like my neighborhood or just family members that do music. Just
Mhm.
helping them become better artists and teaching them like the music business because like I've learned a lot about that just from my time in LA.
That's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
so excited for you. That's gonna be a whole nother realm. But you can take
Yeah.
all your corporate America tools straight over there.
Oh yeah, because like Facebook and Instagram like definitely showed me how to like market and everything like that. Amazon really showed me how to like find like niche areas and how to push that, and it really made me sharper on the business side. And like I think a
Mhm.
lot of people who are aspiring artists like they don't realize like the business aspect of music. Like it's a lot of things, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of verbiage that you need to be familiar with. And if you're not
Mhm.
familiar, if you're not comfortable with those things, like you're gonna get taken advantage of. And you see that a lot, you know. Like I
Yeah.
think right now everybody talking about like NBA YoungBoy's like his contract or whatever. It's like it's just those things. So it's like luckily for me, like I'm not your typical artist or whatever. Like I'm a little bit older and I have a lot more capital to myself. So
Yeah.
it would take a lot to take advantage of me, but I'm no dummy.
Yeah. I mean, you've done the legwork and you've been through the process. So that's
Yeah,
the key to it. Most people, they just like, I want to create, and that's it. You
yeah,
can't just create. You got to know the business too.
yeah. Especially if you want to make some money off of it. That's
Yeah.
that's
We
the
were
main
supposed to
thing.
make money off of it.
Yeah, like why not? And I think a lot of people don't really see that as an opportunity. Like, that's an extra stream of income. Most millionaires have seven streams of income. So like,
Mm,
I'm working on my seven. I really use like this time with COVID to really kind of like line up my next move. So
yeah.
2021 is happening.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about, I'm glad you're talking about seven streams of income because budgeting and managing money, like you
Oof.
can have money, but if you can't manage it, it's a problem. So how do you budget and manage your money?
Yeah, I always kind of looked at it like money is, and just like anything, like relationship, cars, houses, money is relatively like getting it is the easy part, but keeping it is always going to be like the challenge.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, okay, I make this, I make that, or whatever. Well, that's cool that you're making that, but like, what is your power in terms of like the money that you have? So it's like, you know, I have friends who've been making six figures since they were 26 years old, myself included, but it's like, what do you have to really show for that? It's like, yeah, you have all these things, but like they're depreciating. They're not even assets. Like they're constantly depreciating. Like they're not doing anything to keep moving, or they're just spending it as soon as they get it.
Yeah.
But the key is really like just trying to save as much as you can. Like be smart about it. Know the different types of accounts out there, and really make sure like you're setting yourself up. So it's like for me, if I have like a specific goal, like case in point with buying a house, I knew I wanted to set aside like $30,000, save the $30,000 a year, got my house. Um, and it was just typically I don't recommend putting that much in the savings. Like you really want to, I would say give or take maybe about $7,000 or $8,000 in savings, like just kind of like for emergency, and
Mhm.
put everything else in like different types of accounts, like money market accounts and things of that nature. And then of course credit unions. I really can't stress credit unions enough because you get like better interest rates. Like most places, like you get like a put something in savings, you'll earn like a penny in like 3 months or something like that. It's not your money's not really working for you.
Yeah.
But like whenever you have money just in savings alone, it's not really doing much for you. But unless you have specific goals, then you're good. I would also say like living within your means. One thing that I've always been thankful for is like uh, my mom, like my mom, she really focused, like she would give us exercises in terms of like budgeting when we were kids. Because it was like, I used to always want to go to, I'm going to age myself here, but I used to always want to go to Venice Beach over in Arlington. It was, for
Yeah.
those who don't know, Venice Beach was like this teenage club.
It was fun.
Uh, it was fun, but it was like, $10, $20 or something like that to get in. Then you
Yeah.
buy your drinks, which is like
It's
overpriced.
true.
Yeah, sure.
That's so funny.
I was like, whose idea? It was genius, but it was it was so bad.
Smart. They
Yeah,
marketed
but
that thing. They got their
oh yeah,
money.
nah, they got the money for sure. They got me. Uh, but my mom, she was like, you want to do all these things or whatever, like, but it's not cheap. So she would, tell me about. So we would basically have like a breakdown, like, okay, you're making this much a month. How much can you afford in rent? How much can you afford in food? Okay, this is your typical electric bill, and like she
Mhm.
would really sit me down and like walk me through these things. So that really helped me out. So once I was out in the real world and on my own, like I always knew how to like budget and live within my means. And I
Yeah.
think one thing like that we really see a lot of, especially like in the DFW area. We joke about it, but like the $33,000 millionaires or whatever, where you have these people who they're not killing the game like that, but they have like all these, Louis V this, Versace this. It's like, nah, that's not doing anything for you. Like
Mm-mm.
you might look good, but who are you really trying to impress? It makes more sense to have buying power, spending power versus just like buying stupid stuff like that. Like, but people young, and I get it. You want to have fun and everything. Like, don't let me, stop you from enjoying life. But at the same time, you really want to make sure that you're building something because you don't want to be in that position where you're always looking like check to check. And that way, you're essentially like just above broke. Like
Yeah.
people used to say, job is job, just over broke. And
Mhm.
that's really what it is. So like, unless you're really saving and preparing for those rainy days and those tough times, you really want to be careful. But just be smart.
Please. Especially if
Yeah.
you making a little money now. Like if you don't have
Yeah.
debt and you making money, you definitely want to invest that money.
Oh yeah, and it's like and I think too, just really look at like how much you're paying like in rent and things like that. Like that, I feel like that's like the biggest piece.
Mhm.
Rent and car note because like that eats up a lot of people's checks. So just really trying to like understand like okay, I don't want to put this much into rent. Like I feel like rent should be no more than like maybe like a third or something like that of what you bring home a month. That's just kind of how I looked at it. At least back anyway. Like being out here in Austin, that's a little bit harder because it's super expensive,
Yeah.
which is the reason why I went ahead and bought a house when I did. But yeah, just being smart, budgeting, and just saying no to a lot of things. Is like it's been a lot of trip opportunities, and it's like man, it was like fun, but not now. Because I don't want to get out there and I can't do nothing. Y'all having fun, y'all eating steak, and I'm over here eating bologna. So, so it's like those are things you want to think.
For sure. A lot of people associate money with success, but how do you define success and happiness?
I define success by like is everybody eating, because I kind of never been a fan of like one person like eating and
Mhm.
everybody else is just kind of sitting there watching you eat. Are you positioning yourself to help other people around you? And that's what I was saying about like why I like recruiting. Because I was able to like hire my brothers and hire like my sister-in-laws and everything like that, hire my cousin, hire my aunt, hire my whole neighborhood, so it was just
Mhm.
kind of like really giving like real opportunities to people, so it was like you're not always gonna have it's not always gonna come in the form of money or
Mm.
whatever. Like I never really measure success too much by money.
Yeah.
It's like am I happy with what I'm doing? Do I enjoy what I'm doing? Am I better than I was yesterday? To me, that's success. Like, and that keeps me positive because like what happens is like if you're always competing against yourself like that and you're too critical on yourself, like you're never really gonna be happy, and that
Yeah.
starts to seep into like your personal relationships. It starts seeping into your personality. And like I said about negativity, people are not gonna want to be around you. If you're in that mind state. So that piece is super important to me.
It's true. So, do you believe purpose is a journey or a destination?
I'd say it's a journey, and I think destination is just kind of like you're gonna be here. This is where you have to be. This is the final destination. Whereas the
Mhm.
journey, like you never really know where you're gonna end up. If you told me, a kid from the hood at 5 6 years old that I would have the relationship that I have with my parents because like I love both my parents. Even though I didn't really like grow up with them like that, especially my dad, but I talk to my dad every day now, or every week
Mhm.
now. Like we just did a photo shoot this past weekend. But it's like, just all those things. Like if you would have told me that I'd be here now, like I wouldn't believe it. Because honestly, I didn't think just being in my surrounding, I really didn't think I would make it past like 18 because it was just like I was really heavy in the streets like that.
Mhm.
And it was just kind of I don't know, just a different mentality, different mindset, and you see the people around you like going to jail. You see just the everyday ins and outs. I'm sure I got PTSD from all of that, but
Yeah.
it's like
For real.
yeah, for real, and it's like you just never really know. So you just really gotta stay prayed up, stay positive, stay focused, but be flexible at the same time because a lot of people get so rigid, and it's like you got to know how to pivot and know when to pivot, and a lot of people
Mhm.
don't, and that's how they end up getting stuck. So it's just kind of like if one thing doesn't work out, that doesn't mean that's the end of the world, and that's why I say it's not a destination because if I look at it like I should have been a lawyer or whatever, then I would look at everything that I have, everything that I've done, and say that I'm a failure. When I
Mhm.
honestly I feel like I've done more now where I am than what I probably could have ever done as a lawyer.
Yeah.
You just never really know. So
Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think, and I honestly think that you have this perspective because you're of service.
yeah,
Like when you choose to be of service, it changes your perspective about everything. 'Cause it's
Oh
bigger
yeah.
than just you. It's bigger than that.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things like that I've always like prayed for. Like I've always kind of looked at, there's the biggest thing for us is to be like, vessels for God to use, and that's always
Mhm.
kind of been like my mindset. So it's like regardless of how I'm living or if I'm not doing certain things, like what people might see in the right way, as long as God is able to use me or whatnot, like and I'm able to be of service to people, then that I really couldn't ask for more than that. So that's kind of been my mindset.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, my last question for you is if you knew then what you know now, would you
Oh
change
man.
anything?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It
Honestly, I
is.
I wouldn't, but you know what? One thing that I probably would have done different. I did have like an opportunity to really go into like computer science and things like that, engineering, because I was always like, and I'm still really good at math, but
Hmm.
like the people around me, like they were older, um, they convinced me like, there's no money in computer science and everything. And now look at that, it's like, man, there's people coming out of school,
Oh
and
my gosh.
I know because I'm making these offers, but like they're coming out of like college making like $120,000
My
just with computer
God.
science.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. Trust me, when I make the offers to them, I'm always kind of like, dang,
God.
I shouldn't have listened. And and it kind of goes to show like just because people are older, that doesn't make them your elders. That doesn't
Hmm.
mean they automatically know more or something like that. Like do your own homework, do your own research. Like yeah, take it into consideration, but still take it upon yourself to do your own research because you just really never know. Like people get older, but like that doesn't come. Getting older doesn't mean like you're wiser, more mature, or anything. You're just Asian. That's
Just older. Yeah. And if
it.
they haven't done what you're trying to do, a lot of times they don't know. It's
Yeah,
not to be
and they mean
disrespectful,
well.
but you
Yeah,
don't know, you know?
yeah. Because I was like, one of like what me and my aunt were like the only ones to complete college in our family. So it's just kind of like instead of me asking her about it, I'm asking people who didn't finish. So I was just kind of like, yeah, I probably should have done that different. That's the only regret that I have, but it's like, and I think that's why I'm technology adjacent.
Yeah.
So I'm in the tech, yeah, I'm in the tech field, but I'm, just not on the engineering side. But you never know. I can always decide one day, you know what, nothing's stopping me. Why not take a coding class and see what happens? I got the connection in the network. So
Yeah. And you're headed in that direction anyway.
yeah, pretty much.
You just took a
Pretty much.
detour. That's all that is.
That's it. As I said, it's a journey, not a destination. So
Yes. Well, I'm so proud of you. I
thank you.
promise,
Same to
like,
you.
I know you're gonna do so well in whatever you try to do. I know you're gonna do
Thank you.
well.
Thank
So
you. Same.
chase after everything.
Oh yeah, definitely. Always stay hungry. Like
Yes.
the good brother Tim Brown always say, stay hungry.
Yes. He always says that too.
Always.
But I
Shout out to him.
appreciate you. Yeah, shout out to my bro Tim Brown. That's
Yeah.
that's high school. That we were prom king and queen together.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. Super small world. That's my
Mhm.
boy.
Yes. I appreciate you coming on though.
I appreciate you for having me, Sam. And anytime you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. This was fun.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.